Thank you all for having me again. I love this group. And of course, my favorite events are the ones there in Minnesota, because all the cool people are there. All right, so today we're talking about creating the buzz, increasing adoption through a champions program. And this is a session I've been doing for a few years, but I think it's renewed now with Copilot. And how do we get people using the technology that we've invested in and using it wisely and using it to its greatest advantage? That's the struggle. If you build it, they don't necessarily come. You need to entice them there. So we're going to focus on that today as we go through the content. All right. There we go. All right. So if you're not familiar with me, I'm Shari Oswald. They call me Shortcut Shari. It started out as a joke and it's stuck. So that's my blog, my Facebook, my Twitter /X. I call it Twix. And if you want to reach out to me, I also have courses on LinkedIn Learning, on SharePoint as well, and a lot of e-learning content and clip training. So if you're interested, just reach out to me. I'm happy to touch base and help you in your journey. All right, so let's talk about why do we need adoption. So digital transformation is kind of a big phrase. It's been thrown around for several years, but notice AI is kind of top and to the center of that. And no push has brought us to transformation faster than AI. And bringing people to the table and giving them the tools that make them more productive is how we're going to make sure that we as an organization stay current and relevant and cutting edge ourselves. I worked for a nonprofit for it was a 6-month contract, and I ended up being there for 6 years. And throughout that 6 years, they're like, we're moving to the cloud. We're moving to the cloud. Are you really moving to the cloud? And they weren't really cutting edge. And in the meantime, a lot of their resources, all of their skills were dying on the vine because they weren't actually using what is there. So it's not just in our best interest as an organization to keep on top of tech and keep that digital transformation moving forward. We need to do that for our resources too, so that their skills don't die on the vine. So we need people to use the technology that's available to us. And we do that through digital transformation. All right, so why do we focus on change management? I think the biggest miss when we are talking about digital transformation is that there are people involved in this. Yes, you have all the engineers. I call them engineers with all of the love in the world because I'm glad they do the job that they do. But they focus on tech, and that's what they're good at. What I have found in my career, and as someone who's a trainer and a change management adoption specialist, is that they forget that there are people behind this, and that just because IT thinks it's a good idea because it's great for security, or it's great for accessibility, or it's great for XYZ, whatever thing they're trying to make a change for, or what the driving force is behind the change, they forget that there are people there, and people need to be brought along on the journey with you, and not just say, IT says we need to be more secure. IT says we need to use AI. IT said, they don't care. They're worried about their job. And so what's in it for me or with them is what we need to focus on and bring the people along with us. All right. So some of the things to keep in mind while you're looking at change management is that resistance is normal. And I work with all level of skill in many organizations. And I think the resisting ones are the hardest ones to bring along, because they're the ones that are like, I've been doing this the same way for 20 years. Don't make me change now. Even though they realize that it would be to their benefit, or they don't realize it would be to their benefit. It's like, let me just show you the way. So resistance is normal and expected. But in order to bring those people along with us, we need to make sure they're not afraid. We want to make them feel empowered. We want them to understand that this change will help them. Again, focus on the with them, more with them than probably any other audience that you're working with. And then shadow IT is real. If you don't give people a tool to do the job they need to do, they will find their own tool. And it may or may not be adhering to your security standards or integrated with what you're already doing. So trying to assume that people are only using the tools that you're giving them is a little bit naive, because we want to make sure that everybody's productive, can do their job, and not just bringing the tools that they're most comfortable with. I can't tell you how many migrations I've gone through where people, we were like, okay, what do you have in your OneDrive? And we look at the OneDrive and they're like, but wait, I have this over here in Box, or I have this over here in Google, or any other different weird, file storage that wasn't in compliance. So keep in mind, people are using tools if they are comfortable with them, whether you have given them the blessing or not. And all people are not the same. There are different types of individuals for their comfort, how comfortable they are with IT, how resistant to change they are. Again, it might be that person's like, I've been doing this way for 20 years. So we need to meet them where they work and entice them in a way that gets them excited about things. And I go back to, all of this is getting people's attention. How do we get people's attention? People focus on different things. Some people are very email Outlook centric. Some people are very much in, Teams, and that's where they work. Some people are just, they're like, I don't do, like God bless my daughter in love. I adore her. If she can't do it on her phone, she won't do it. I'm like, honey, let me just show you. Now, can I do it on my phone? No, I'm not doing it. So you've got to meet people where they are, and finding the right place to promote and share that information might be your biggest challenge, because you've got to try and anticipate where everybody's looking for the stuff. All right. So we focus on the ADKAR method. I'm with my company's PowerUP Learning, and this is the secret sauce that I have found that helps people take things a little bite at a time. You can't just shove something down their throat and expect them to be excited about it. And there are 5 steps to the ADKAR method. There's awareness, which is, did you know something's coming? We want you to know that there's something new, something's changing, and don't just drop it in their lap and say, on Monday, you're going to be using Teams, because that's what I saw. Especially in the pandemic era, they were dropping Teams over the fence and assuming people know how to use it just to keep moving in business, because that was the only, the big choice. The growth that Microsoft expected in 10 years happened in 10 months because of a pandemic. So this is where I saw the most missed opportunity in bringing people into Teams, because they're still not using it. 5 years later, they're still not using it because they weren't brought along on the journey. It was just dropped in their lap. So making them aware that something's coming, and that, just to let you know, FYI, the next step is to make them want it, this is the desire piece. How do we make sure that they are excited about what's coming? Well, we do that by making things easier for them. Don't make them harder, make them easier. Then we build the knowledge base. So now that we are aware of it, we find some benefit in it, or kind of excited about it. Now I want to make you competent. So let's start helping you build the skills that you need to use that tech. And then the ability comes from the practice of that, them being able to actually implement what we taught them. And then reinforcement, because, if you've ever participated in training, or the statistics, we pretty much only retain or use about 30 to 40% of what we've learned in a class. And therefore, unless we use it right away, we're not going to remember. We're not going to use it. It's going to fall off. I use this analogy of spaghetti on the wall. If you've ever had little kids, and I'm having revisiting of this now with the grandchild, is, like my son threw a bunch of noodles at the wall, and some of them stuck and some of them fell. Well, if I were to pick that up again, I threw a little bit more, and a little more sticks, a little less falls, because repetitive, it's sticking. But eventually, it will dry up and fall off on its own. I don't have to clean that off if I don't want to. Of course I did. But, the same thing with our knowledge. The more times you throw it at the wall, the more it's going to stick. But if you don't use it, or don't remind people that it's there, it's going to dry up and fall off the wall. So we want to make sure that people are aware of what's available, and keep reminding them, did you know? Do you remember? Don't forget, and help them to implement everything. All right, so we have this lovely little curve where we work with our audience. We have everything from innovators to what we call laggards, and everybody in between. And you're going to find that it has pretty much a bell curve. It might be skewed a little left or skewed a little right, depending on your audience, and I'm just going to say it. Some of it is age related, so people are more excited. The younger people that have grown up with technology tend to be a little bit more innovative, or if I can't do it on my phone, they're not going to do it on my phone. So they might be somebody that's be a struggle. But we have our early adopters, we have our early majority, and our late majority. So the majority of our people are typically at the top of that bell curve, and they're somewhere in the middle. They don't hate it, they don't love it. They're just gonna, if it'll make life easier for me, then I'll jump in. And we want to focus most of our communications on those people, because they're going to help bring along the people that are kind of dragging their feet. The innovators are going to be out there in front of you and probably 3 steps past what you're trying to do. So we don't need to really bring them along. We want to bring in that middle group of people. All right, so I focus on the who, what, when, where, why, and how of that journey. How do we get people from A to Z? And we'll start with the why. So why are we doing this? Why are champions important? These are, again, those middle people that are excited about it, probably leaning toward the innovators. Why are they important? Well, because IT said is not a good answer. My boss said is not a good answer. Your champions are the people that are going to be in the trenches with their peers and their coworkers, and sharing with them what is in it for them, because each audience is a little bit different. If you can think about, marketing is going to have different triggers than, the sales or manufacturing is going to have. They're going to have different things that are important, or you can streamline or help them improve that process. So we need to identify the people that are going to help us bring those audiences along. Our peers, we feel a camaraderie with. So when you are working with people that work together, they're going to have similar work challenges. They're going to understand and have empathy for that other person. So when you've got somebody who is a little bit more tech forward, and you've got somebody who's a little more tech shy, and they work in the same way, it's like, well, but did you know it'll help you do this A, B, C, D easier? They're going to listen to that more than going to listen to IT or the boss. They're going to listen to their peers more often. All right. You also don't want to have that loud person. I don't know if this kind of was me for a while, because I worked for a company that I was the only tech forward person. Everybody else was a laggard. And I just felt like I was screaming into the abyss, because they just didn't care. Even scheduling meetings in Outlook back in that time frame, they'd walk down the hall and go, you free at 2, free at 2, free at 2. How about 1? How about if it was like an auctioneer? So you don't want to be the loud, obnoxious person. You just kind of want to nudge people along. These are not your champions. If you've got these people that are out there screaming at the hills, probably not your best champions. The main thing is you want to provide help. So your champions are going to be the people that people naturally seek out. And that was me prior to being a trainer. My background, I always say I'm a recovering HR professional, but I was known it was a small management team of 6 in a manufacturing facility that was a satellite facility. But everybody knew, even though my job was HR and accounting and all of that if you need help with your computer, go ask Shari. Shari knows. And then when that company went out of business, that's how I got into being a trainer, because I was training people how to do things. They're like, you're really good at this. You should do this. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, please. I don't want to do HR anymore. So find those people in your department that people naturally gravitate to, because they're known to be helpful, and they're approachable, and they're knowledgeable. And those are going to be the best champions that you can find in your group. All right, so your peers are going to be the one, creating that network of peers within each organization. So it might be within each department or division or wherever that might be, and give them a space to work together. You're going to create a network of those people that are, identified. And in one of the companies that I worked with, they actually had a little badge on the windows that were on their cubes. So you knew these were the people. If you had a problem, they had a big old champion logo that they had created in their marketing department that identified those individuals on their cube. Pretty cool. Right. So we learn best from our peers. Why does that work? Because, kind of what I mentioned before, they have common experiences. They can relate to the job that they're doing. They have shared knowledge and in a lot of cases, peer bonding. I don't know about y'all, but I have people that I don't work with anymore, but we're still friends outside of that contract or whatever I worked at, because, we had, bonding experiences during that time. And those connections provide trust between each other. So, I know Shari knows, well, I don't know, but somebody referred Shari, and if they trust Shari, then I trust Shari. So make sure that, you've identified those people within the peer groups that everybody kind of gravitates for. All right, let's go to the who. So who becomes your champions? These are kind of a little cross section of how to identify who your champions are going to be. Are they passionate about what they do? Are they excited about their job? If it's that person that sits there all day, they may be really good at their job, but they sit there and they're negative Nancy all day long. That's no fun. So make sure that they're passionate and excited and upbeat energy, and they know what they're doing. They're knowledgeable about their job. So, typically they might be somebody that would train somebody else that's a new person that's coming, or they would gravitate toward them. Natural leaders, so somebody that isn't afraid to step up and, lead the charge. You're going to try and identify those. And, just because you're smart and you're, passionate doesn't mean you want to help everybody. One of the organizations I work with, the people that they brought into their champions group without, really working with us to help identify them, these people are like, I have too much to do in my day. I don't have time for all these people's questions. So, they have to be willing to support and have the bandwidth to do so. Don't add to somebody's plate to make them overwhelmed. If they're willing to help and support naturally, that's good, but don't add to their plate. And they're encouraging to other people. And I think for me, one of the best compliments that I get, and the common and most heartfelt to me, are the ones people like, Shari didn't make me feel stupid. Thank you, because it's not my job to act like I know more than you. My job is to help you to be better at what you do too. Then we're all better. So encouraging others to me is one of the most important ones, because you can know what you're saying, you can be good at your job, but if you make somebody else feel stupid, then you're defeating the purpose of being a champion. All right, so how do we find those people? Where do we find them in the crowd? They're probably going to be somewhere in this range: your early adopters and your innovators. So they're the ones that are tech forward. They're excited about the change. They are probably already doing things behind your back that you don't know, that because they're like, I heard about this on a blog, or I read I saw somebody present this at a user group. And so they're jumping in. So our champions are usually our early adopters or innovators within the group. All right, so what are we looking for? All right, we have to give them the expectations. Don't just say, hey, you're our champion. Let them know this is what we expect from you. And that way they have reasonable expectations for what that role means to them, and even the time commitment, because depending on where the company is and where their department is on that journey, may be more or less time intensive. So you want them to create enthusiasm and use a circle of influence to be able to say, hey, it's not just me, because I'm not the authority. I want to create a circle of influence so everybody's kind of helping each other and bring everybody along. They're excited about new ways of working, like me, before Planner came out, I'm like, open. I was like, I wanted that tool so bad, because I thought this will make my life so much easier. Somebody who's professional and is, regarded within their department is going to be helpful as well. They also need to be able to identify challenges. So again, thinking of that mentality of, we want to create enthusiasm. We don't want that naysayer that's constantly saying, this is a pain, this is a pain, this is a pain. It's like, this is a pain, but this is how I think we could fix it. Instead of just complaining all the time, can they provide additional opportunities? And again, that knowledge of the different applications might provide them ideas on what could be solutions to those challenges. And then providing feedback to you. So the letting you know what's working, what's not working. These become your ambassadors. And somebody in IT, again, saying, I said we need this. Well, if they're providing feedback and letting you know this is working for them, this is not working for them, or this won't solve their challenge, it's making bigger problems, it's just as important to have that two-way street of conversation, communication about the process. All right, so what's in it for them? Don't forget the with them. If you're going to rope somebody in to be a champion, give them some kudos, give them some swag, do something for them to make them feel appreciated. So again, that even that little badge that was on the window, people thought that was pretty cool, that, you know, like, I have earned a champion badge. So it's kind of that gamification that we as humans just so love. Give them exclusive opportunities. So things like Copilot, if you're going to be piloting new tech, give them the opportunity to do it first and then give you feedback on it as well. And gifts of appreciation. I love this, you know, little kudos, swag. Everybody loves a good gift, but we had fun t-shirts that all of the I don't know if you remember, like game day in high school with all the football players or wear their jerseys or whatever, kind of the same thing. They would have once a month, they would have a, you know, champion day, or where everybody would wear their champion shirt so people could visually identify who they were. Their group orange Microsoft Office shirts at the time was kind of fun. All right, let's go to where. So where do we find them? Again, these are the people that everybody already sees as the superhero in their department. So they, you know, out of the group, ask around, ask, you know, if you had a question about XYZ, who do you go to? Or you probably would be able to just look around and see, because somebody's already, you know, performing that role. So we're looking for the superheroes, or people who see as their superheroes in the department. And it's not just one person. It needs to be a group. So you bring all those superheroes together and they become a champions group. Now, again, one of the nonprofit that I worked at, we had a group of SharePoint champions that once a month we got together from the different departments, because as the consultant in that area, what I realized was that the different departments were doing the exact same thing separately, and because there was no central place for people to talk about their different challenges at the time, I became the center. Because, and you know, the left hand, the right hand, the left foot, the right foot, nobody knew what everybody else was doing because I became the center. Like, nope, let's start bringing them together so they can talk through. And what ended up being amazing, because we had people that were data specific. We had people like me that were, let me, you know, identify the business analysis kind of thing. You tell me what your challenge is. Let's find a solution. And we kind of had a little Venn diagram of skill sets. So everybody brought what they had to the table, and made it a whole lot easier to solve the issues, because we all had different pieces of the puzzle. But when we came together, we had the whole puzzle, which is great. All right, when do you decide, or when do we bring in the champions? So this, if you have looked at the Office launch adoption, I love this timeline view of things. I think there's so much information in the adoption center that it can be completely overwhelming, and which is great. They give us a lot of resources, but oh my gosh, they give us a lot of resources. How do you boil it down? And I love this simplified view of things, of when do we bring people in for what. So across the top, we see the strategy and key stakeholders and the 4 phases to their role in the process of the digital transformation. Underneath that, we have the usage scenarios. So how do we figure out what is in it for them? How do we identify the business challenges? And I always start with, what's your problem? Not the snarky, what's your problem? But no, what's your problem? Let's figure out what your business challenges are, and then we'll find a solution for that. But unless we talk to the people that we're trying to bring along on the journey with us and identify what those problems or what those business challenges are, how do we gear our communications? How do we decide what's the best course of action to help them to be successful and be excited about the tech? So that, to me, that usage scenario, that's the most important stage of the whole process, is identifying what's in it for them. Your champions then, your community and the development of your champions community comes in at that same stage. We want to be in line, if you kind of look vertically at this little chart at the top, we want to be in line with the vision and the business scenarios for the company. We want to map those scenarios to create your adoption.
Shari, I think you're on mute.
Did it mute? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sometimes the keyboard just likes to do that to you.
I didn't touch it. So that's funny. Okay, thank you. All right. So your communications and your all of that information is going to start with your champions. They're going to be the conduit between you and the larger audience, your evangelist, if you will. So you're going to ask them, what are the challenges your people are having? Let's find some scenarios to help them meet that. And I love to do adoption campaigns. I call them, they're kind of like a little marketing drip learning campaign. So I'll kind of tie that together with the ad card here towards the end. All right. And then, of course, across all of that, we have to make sure that we've got the IT and social governance around the new technologies and communicating that as in line with everything else. Okay. All right, so communication and training. So after when we're in the communication and training, we're going to organize and develop the champions program so that we can identify the messaging that we need to share and also what skills people are going to need. You're going to find out from your stakeholders who they are and what they're doing, what is helpful to them, what is not helpful to them, how kind of get the temperature of the audience of the people that they're working with. Then we're going to find out who among them are going to be the thought leaders, the evangelists, and create a group around them. So engage, I need to update this slide. It says Yammer Network. This is a really good place where you create a central space for them to work with each other as well. Having a monthly get together and little meeting might be helpful, but having an ongoing support like something in Viva Engage would be helpful too, so they can ask questions of each other and share information or share kudos or aha moments, things like that. And then you're going to set up the champions community from there. So after we've planned it out, we figured out what is the goals of the community, what is the tech that we're trying to help with at this particular time. We're going to create that community. And again, it could be physical community or virtual community, whichever one, give them that space to work in. All right. Now, how do we communicate across all of that to people? We want to make sure that your champions are part of that launch, and maybe coordinate those champion days or those highlighted days with key points of your project. So your different turning points that milestones, things like that within your project. Make sure those are there. If you can, provide your champions with a quick handout. Sometimes people need paper, just so here's a little fact sheet or something to get either their user buy-in or their manager buy-in to be able to say, here's what's coming, and I need your support on that. Because I'd have to say, I told you I worked for that nonprofit 6-month contract, ended up being 6 years. We're going to the cloud. They didn't go to the cloud. They kept not going to the cloud because the managers kept shooting it down. They're like, our people can't handle the truth. It's like, no, they can handle it, but they decided not to. So that manager buy-in is really, really important all the way up the chain. And so they need to understand, this will help your people they're the advocate, this will help your people be more productive, and this is why I need your support. So giving them that quick fact sheet might be something that's helpful as well. All right, how do we go about this? Well, first of all, you got to pick a date and start. Everybody's like, kind of again, that nonprofit's like, oh, our people can't handle the truth. Yes, they can. They start on the journey. Do you know when their journey happened? Actually happened was when COVID happened, because they were moving to the cloud, Oh, they can't move to the cloud. They can't, they can move to the cloud. And then they had to move to the cloud. Guess what? They were not ready. They, the productivity bombed right after that because people were not comfortable with it, where they had 5 years prior to that they had the opportunity to bring them along. So you just got to start, say, hey, this is the date, this is when we're starting. And then, you know what? Nobody does it perfect. If you've ever done a project plan ever, no project has ever gone to the plan, like ever. And that's okay. So you may have to, iterate, change, but you have to at least get started. Right. So your champions community, the first thing you need to do is to identify the sponsor of that. Who at the top of your organization is going to be the ringleader for all of this, because you have to be able to look up the chain and know that you have support. You have to define objectives for that community. And it's different for every organization, for every digital transformation, for every audience. It's going to be a little bit different. So I can't give you the secret pill of these are the objectives for every single organization, because we need to talk to our people and find out what those are. We need to talk to the organization and find out what those are and bring them into alignment. We can't just, say, oh, I think from my perspective, this would be great. That's where that fails. Make sure that you have a good feedback loop for the guidelines, because we want to make sure that not only are we giving information, but we're gaining information back and forth. So make sure you have clear guidelines for feedback. I love having the idea of having a Microsoft team for your champions, like a private group that they can go and communicate and work together. And then again, Yammer, or what's now called Viva Engage, create another group there as well. So what's the difference between those two? I try to explain to people Teams versus Yammer. So Teams is like if I were to walk out of a elevator and I look around, there's a bunch of cube farms. You've got the IT department, the HR department, the finance department. They'll have that designated space where all of their work and their file cabinets and their desks, and maybe in the center they have a little war room area with a conference table that everybody shares. Now Yammer is kind of like the auditorium, or what's now Viva Engage. It's a larger group. So the team for the champions is for them to work together, share information, share documentation, maybe task manage it, whatever that might be. For Viva Engage, that's going to be, where do we get the information from people? It's kind of like the bulletin board, if you were to think of it that way, in the break room or the auditorium, where we're like, raise your hand if you have an issue or a question, and it opens up to a larger audience. So, the teams for more collaborative, Yammer for more the feedback loop or Engage. Sorry, I can't seem to rename that in my head. I still have the Yammer t-shirt. Okay.
There is a question, Shari, I'm going to interrupt for a moment, from
Sure.
Jason. He's saying, hi, Shari, are you noticing a trend where more organizations are establishing dedicated change management shared services departments to lead these initiatives, similar to how HR, finance, and IT are structured? With the rapid pace of technological and business processes changes today, it seems well overdue for C-suites and the business community to just embrace that change management is just as important as HR, finance, logistics, IT, etc.
1,000% agree. And training, to me, I've worked under training and it's worked under HR. I've been in training, I've worked under finance. It really is change management. So training, the training department should be change management or adoption. And I agree, 100% agree with that. Again, depends on the size of the organization. It's overkill to have a change management department in, a 50-person company or something, but there needs to be that function in the organization, whether it falls under somewhere or it's a dedicated thing. And I get more job suggestions through LinkedIn for change management now than I do for trainers. So I think 100% you're right. And IT is moving so fast that, again, I was like, oh shoot, I need to update that slide deck because I forgot that I didn't update it last time. Not only the capabilities, but the features that are constantly being added, and how do you keep up with that? 100%. Change management needs to be a piece of it, but I'm the choir. I'm the one that's usually saying, I bid out on projects, or a partner brings me in and they're like, well, they want training. I'm like, did they do change management? And they're like, no, they just want training. It's like, I can't, you're cutting off one of my arms when you do that, because I want to make them excited, not just tell them where to click. So yes, I agree with you 100%. Thanks, Chris. Did that answer your question? Hopefully.
Yeah, I think it did. For sure. I 100% agree with you too. I think change management is vital, but it also needs to have a space in a company that's right-sized.
Yes. Yep. And it's, a department in a large organization, it's part of another department or something, because it's maybe the communications department, or it might be part of it too, because that's a big piece of it, is letting people know.
Yeah, and I think having, like Chris said, a dedicated EPMO, Enterprise Project Management Office, is important. Katie is asking, do you recommend getting certified in change management or ProSci?
I think you need to adopt some change management methodology. ProSci is very specific in theirs and a little structured, but just in general, adopting a change management and sticking with it. That's why I've studied ProSci. I didn't go get certified yet. My business partner is ProSci certified, but I just, I was like, what, ADKAR is more flexible to me, and I can, it is a methodology. It is structured, but it's flexible, where ProSci is very, in my opinion, a little bit more strict, I guess is the word I'm trying to think of. Anybody else have an opinion on that? Because this is not just me. This is not the Shari show. So that's why we're all here together as a user group.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that's my opinion. Just at least developing or having some methodology. I know Missy is asking, where would one find this type of certification? I know in Minnesota, there's a Minnesota Change Management Network that meets and has a member and board, much like we do. I'll go ahead and put the link in here, Katie, or Missy.
Yeah, and ProSci has, if you go to their website, it's about last I looked, it was like $4,500 to do the initial ProSci certification. And you go to a workshop on site. There's actually one in Colorado Springs, and it's beautiful, at the Garden of the Gods Club. It's right around the corner from me. But I can't go home that night, and you have to stay there. So it's like camp. It's like summer camp. You go there and you do the workshop for 4 days. It's pretty intensive. But you get certified out of that. Or, there's also the change management adoption in the Microsoft Learn as well, if you want to look at some of those. If you're just looking for something to become familiar, you don't get like a certificate, but there's some options there just for change, increasing your knowledge, I guess, is the main thing. But I'm going to say this amount for that voice. It's kind of like Microsoft Learn. I don't know how much instructional design goes into the materials. I'm just going to say that. Seems like a lot of marketing, but it'll at least give you a start. So, all right. Any other questions or comments?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So let's identify our champions. Who supports your objectives? And, again, if you have the naysayers, you don't want them in the pool, because you want positive vibes, not the negative vibes. So make sure that even though they're knowledgeable, they may not be your best champion. So who supports your objectives? Who challenges the norm? Who's not afraid to say, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this, and is looking for options to do so. Who's excited for the transformation? They're like, can I have Copilot? I want to try Copilot. Can I have Copilot, or whatever that tool might be? 10 years ago it was SharePoint. SharePoint got a bad rap for a long time, but I've been using SharePoint since before it was called SharePoint. It's been my baby for a long time. And it's nice to see that people are finally using it, because it's, it doesn't look like SharePoint anymore, I guess. All right. Who currently delivers value in the organization? Are they already respected in their job, in their job role, in their skills, in their personality? Who delivers that value already in your organization? Who's professional and respected, and people gravitate to if they have any kind of questions or need some help? And who shows initiative that they're like, hey, I want to go to this workshop, or I go to the Minnesota group every single month. I attend their virtual, even if it's virtual, or I go to the workshop days. Who are the people that are asking for the opportunities to learn and where they can upskill in their skills? These are going to be who your champions are. All right. How do we prepare them? We need to let them know what their expectations are. We talked about that, defining what those expectations are. Give them learning opportunities. They need to be ahead of the curve. So when you do pilot groups, these are going to be your pilot people. When you do, workshops or, conferences, these are the people that you're supposed to send, because you need to have them ahead of the curve and not, being asked about things that they don't even maybe know what are happening. Do some team building. So bring together, again, also depends on the size of your organization, but in larger organizations, there we go, you have a team building event where they can, work together, troubleshoot, and have a lot of fun in the meantime. Have a kickoff. It's like, all right, here, today is the day we are launching our new initiative for digital transformation, whatever that tool might be, and let's do a kickoff event, and everybody, big rah fest. Everybody's, maybe you get a coffee cup or something, who knows, something fun. And then make sure that you are talking to them ahead of time, that we need to know what the business challenges are that are coming from your audience. So, let them start talking to people informally before, or, helping people brainstorm around it ahead of time, so that they are aware and ready to present those when the time comes. All right, next we're going to roll it out. So we're going to communicate to the organization, hey, we have champions for you. This is how you get in touch with them. These are who they are. These are the SharePoint site. And I've even seen you can customize Active Directory to add additional columns or fields, and they will identify them as a champion. So they'll add a custom column to that, and you can go out and search for them in that. Make sure they're recognizable, that they have badges or gear or some kind of identifier on their profile within the organization, and then schedule regular meetings, from the people that you're working with. So they need to talk to the project team as well, and be able to give feedback to the project team. All right. So how do we get information from the organization? The first thing is a SharePoint communication site. This can be one or two ways. So communication sites are meant to be communicating out, but as you add articles and information into that SharePoint site, you also have the means of collecting comments, which can be a blessing or a curse on those SharePoint pages. So it is a way of gathering information around those as you post different announcements. Again, an engaged community, so it feels like they have an auditorium, or they, here's a suggestion box, or whatever you want to call that, that area for them to be able to share information. And then have ask a champion forum. I love doing AMAs. Give me your real stuff. Let's answer questions. And I think Michelle mentioned that I'm part of the group with Christian Buckley, and it's like, let's solve the real world stuff. And those are fun for me. If you want to, you can do surveys using Microsoft Forms. You can add some automation behind that and have people, again, it's like the suggestion box idea. Here's some of the information that people may need, and you gather from them. And then use PowerUps as well. PowerUps, you can tie forms with the Dataverse and everything, create a whole app around gathering information. And then, you may have Power BI reports. Depends on how much you really want to be able to analyze the data that you're gathering. It could be, again, informal, like, hey, here's the suggestion box, or we have gotten 10 different suggestions for XYZ on this topic. Maybe that needs to be something we need to be addressed. So if you're looking for that level of detail, you might want to do something a little bit more elaborate. All right, celebrate the wins. It's like, we're trudging along, and everybody likes to have a kudo. And when you have a really good creative solution to something, maybe it is the solution of the month. You have a highlight of, here's the business challenge. they're basically use cases or user stories that you publish and say, here's what we've done. Not only does that share or make people feel good about the work that they've done, it also inspires other people to say, oh, well, if they did like that, maybe we could use that same thing a different way. And so you're inspiring people to change the way that they work as well, just by that. And then especially any milestones, make sure that, we hit we were trying to do this by XYZ date. We hit that date. Thank you so much. Now we can move forward, whatever, make sure that we recognize everybody for their wins. Right. So some best practices. Start small and grow as needed. You don't need too many cooks in the kitchen. It's better to have quality than quantity people in your champions community. Make sure that they know that they are heard and their voice matters, because they are key to the success for bringing along those people dragging their feet. And they need to understand, even if you can't implement what they've asked, that you've heard what they've said, and you're looking, it's on the backlog or something. Acknowledge, that they've been heard. Gather and incorporate any feedback and let people know, based on your feedback, we did XYZ. Thank you so much for letting us know, because that way that's going to encourage them to continue to give you feedback. If they feel like they're shouting into the abyss, you're going to lose your momentum. They're going to lose trust in you, and they are going to fall off. So we don't want that to happen. Hold regular meetings and stick to them. Even if they're like once a month for half an hour, that's okay. Whatever that cadence is, maybe it's every other month for an hour, whatever that might be, make sure you stick to it and just say, oh, we don't have time this month. Oh, because eventually you're not going to have them anymore. So make sure you stick to those. And then again, provide that hub, whether it's an engaged group or a SharePoint team or a SharePoint site or a team or whatever that might be, provide them a hub to communicate and share with each other. All right. Do I have any questions? Let's see, how am I doing on time? Oh, 11 minutes left.
You're doing great. No questions in the chat.
We should listen really long on it because I love to tell stories. So,
yes.
Yeah. And
Awesome. Just kudos from Jason on your video discussions with Christian Buckley. I know that those AMAs are so fun. I wish I had more time to do them. Oh, I don't think she wants any questions, apparently.
Oh, I think yeah, something happened there.
She went, questions? Okay, bye.
Shari, uh-oh.
I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah.
I hope she's going to be back.
Yeah,
We'll keep an eye.
Little blip in the connection there. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, there. Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments, favorite things? I also love to know favorite things. Other than the fact that I need to update Yammer to Viva Engage.
I wanted to take a note or a second here to just share that when I started my role with Copilot a couple of years ago, my team was pretty much asked to be ProSci certified in Copilot. And I thought that was such an interesting twist, because it really is a huge shift, a cultural shift like we've never seen before. And going through that exercise and getting certified was just a huge change for how I could support my customers that where they didn't have change management teams, helping them in getting this new product, also a new way to work, implemented within their organization. So I think, if you're going through any Copilot motions right now, I think implementing some change management best practices and getting people excited. We've got some great, I think, resources on our adoption.microsoft.com/Copilot site. I'll go ahead and put a link in our chat for that, but I think it's really imperative. I don't know, have you seen, Shari, customers or your clients starting to implement some of that change management as they're going through Copilot?
What I'm seeing is I always come in at the end of it. So because I'm known as a trainer, and they're like, hey, we need Copilot training. So I come in after the fact, and I can tell the companies that have done change management and the ones that have not. And it's very apparent for the people, the numbers of people that attend the training sessions. They're like, you booked me for, and there's like 5 people there. And because they didn't do change management, they didn't let them know that it was happening or what it was, how it was going to benefit them. Or the ones that have 100 people in them, because everybody wants to know because they got them excited about it. So yes and no is the answer to the question, because I can tell from the other side that if they done the pre-work that was necessary to make it successful or not.
1000% agree. I could tell you so many different stories of different customers that I had worked with that the night and day. And I'll tell you, if I were to look back at customers that didn't have change management when they rolled it out, their Copilot adoption was really low, and their use of Copilot was extremely low, and they just never lifted off. Right? They get kind of lost in the minutia or the confusion of why do I even use it? What's the value? And instead having, a really robust change management group, or at least motions. This is it. This is key right here is ADCAR.
Yeah. So you want me to give you an example of what I do? This is one of the things I do. This is my secret. I'm giving you my secret sauce, y'all. So awareness. I start out with the, did you know that, what Copilot is? This might be an email campaign. I like to use Viva Amplify now because I think it is one of the best tools out there available for communications and is built through this. I used to try and use Microsoft, not Learn. Oh, shoot. What was the little training add-in that they had? It just brought in like the Microsoft learning content into it. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of
Copilot Academy?
No, it's the Learn. It was
Viva Learning?
It was a SharePoint site that you could use.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. The SharePoint training. Yeah, the training template.
Yes, but
that's it.
That to keep that up to date, you had to know Power. Oh my gosh, where are my words today?
PowerShell
scripts, PowerShell. I was like, yuck! I don't do Power. Girl, don't code. I don't like to code. So I love Viva Amplify because now I can set up the pages for my campaigns, and then I attach those. So I'm an author in a video learning portal that I'm also a reseller of. So I do the awareness. Like, did you know? Let's example, Copilot's coming. Do you know that what Copilot is? This is what Copilot is, and gets people like, they get them a little bit curious. Then we do what I call an Empower Hour. So the desire comes from, let's do a 1-hour presentation of, here's all the cool things that Copilot can do for you. But where did we get that messaging? Where did we get that? It came from the user stories. I don't make it up. It's like, let's make them want it because it's going to fix their problem. But I need to know what that problem is ahead of time. Then we're going to, from that, it's an email campaign that comes out every week. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? And there's 3 objectives for each of those things that we've identified that go to a 2 to 4 minute video. And so real quick learning, little bites. So they're not trying to feel like they have to eat an elephant. And then that learning portal, that we tease them into for each of those, they can now go beyond what I've teased them with, and they can build their skill around the whole product. And then reinforcement, don't forget, Copilot can do this, or when a new feature comes out, that's the reinforcement too. It's like, keep pushing them back to where they can learn, keep pushing, and drawing them back to their the resources that are available, which could be a user group, it could be a blog, it could be whatever that is, however you're sharing that information in the organization. For me, it's a video learning portal because people like little small bite videos. Just look at TikTok and all of that they don't want to spend, looking on Google for or Bing for an hour to find a video that they only need 3 minutes of. Like, just hand them the 3-minute video. And so that's kind of my process. We do awareness, let them know it's coming based on their user stories, make them want it. Then we build their knowledge with the little bites, and then, give them additional opportunities to learn, and then do the reinforcement as things are updated or changed. Does that help at all? I'm actually writing campaigns right now for Copilot, which are fun because I finally have, thank goodness, I've discovered a lab environment that I can teach Copilot from hands-on, and it doesn't require them to have a license. I'm so excited because Microsoft has been pushing us for over a year and a half to teach Copilot. It's like, okay, but I can't do it. I can't tell them to go summarize an inbox and show them my inbox because that's not going to happen. I've got other clients that I've got to respect their privacy from.
Yeah, I very, very similar. We now have the environment, but when the EAP was happening, I was showing my inbox. It was just, that was where we were at the time in technology. And I'm so glad to hear that you have an environment that somebody doesn't need a license. That's so fantastic.
Yeah. Like, where you been my whole life? Yeah, they finally came up with it. So, which means I can also create training materials and stuff. Because I can spin up a lab. Bless the Contoso Labs.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, awesome. Is there any other questions for Shari?
Chris just had a comment that he's transitioning to Amplify, which I think is great. I think it's helpful. And
yeah, we actually just had Britt, who is the product manager for Viva Amplify, on a couple months back. So if you are interested in Viva Amplify, check out our YouTube video. It's just a great overview of Viva Amplify and the power, which we used to have to manually try to figure this out, where you communicate once and it goes to several locations. We figured that out with Power Automate, but now Viva Amplify just completely helps you go, hey, I want to push that to Viva Engage. I want to push that to SharePoint. I want to push that into Teams, wherever your people are. Communicate once and then have it go to wherever people live, right? I think that's also a part of this, communication. I call it a three-legged stool, really, is adoption, communication, and training for Copilot. And definitely that communication piece, landing where people are living, is super important, even if that's in Slack, right? Even if it's outside, having a central location for all your assets is so important.
It was Learning Pathways. It just popped into my head. The light bulb just went on. Learning Pathways was the add-in SharePoint thing. But yeah, because I used to create them in Learning Pathways, and then I'd manually have to go in and trigger the page, or schedule it, but it didn't go anywhere else. And Amplify can set up the whole campaign, and it just dropped whenever I decided it was supposed to drop, which is great. All right. Well, thank you so much again for the opportunity. You all are awesome. I so much appreciate it. And I will see you hopefully in November.
Yay!
Yeah, but definitely Twin Cities. I'll be there for to Twin Cities Community Days in a few weeks. So looking forward to that too.
Awesome. Well, call for speakers.
It's next weekend. Wait,
yeah, call for speakers. It's the 19th. So
it's Blur's Day. I don't know how it became a Blur month. My summer just disappeared. I don't know how happened.
No, completely. Well, I hope to see you in November. I know all of us would love to hear more of your stories in person in November. So call for speakers is open, Shari.
Got it. I got it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shari, and huge round of applause for you.
Thank you so much.